Old School RuneScape's newest quest, Sins of the Father, comes out next week, and I figured I'd refresh your memory on the story so far, or at least as well as I can remember it. The first day I got membership for my account, I immediately wanted to go to the spooky, scary swamplands of Morytania, so I made a beeline for the salve, ignoring literally everything that stood in my way.
Would you care to dig for some artifacts?
Got any spare bones?
Have you seen my son?
I finally made it to the salve, only to be stopped by some monks for something. From what I remember, this guy named Drezel was having a problem with his neighbor's dog. He asked me to help, and I dealt with the beast the way any other RuneScape player would, by murdering it. I managed to dispatch of the mangy mutt, got the okay to cross into Morytania from my man Dreidel, only to find myself in a city full of, you guessed it, more dogs. Werewolves, to be exact, and they're not even that subtle about it. I mean, seriously? Hair of Dog Inn, the bartender's name is Rover. Come on, have you ever met a human named Rover? But the strangeness of Morytania doesn't stop there. There's zombies, sleepwalkers, a tower full of monsters, another tower right next door full of different monsters, and that's not even half of it. But that's not why we're here. The problem was, as you know, vampires, and I decided I was going to be the one to stop them. I met this guy who definitely didn't have an evil-sounding name, and he told me about some vampire counter-terrorists I should find, and I was like, ooh, yes, perfect, done. I found him, fed him, armed him, led him through a tunnel, discovered that Vanstrom was evil, because I mean, who really saw that one coming, killed yet another dog, and realized the devs must really be cat people. Once the Marik, the Marque, the Mark... Whatever. Once they were safe, they needed a new pad. So I went south to a small town called Berg de Rot to link up with some other members of the cause to create a sick new crib. And this place is great. I'm talking clean floors, wooden tables, bookshelves, standing room. This place has it all. The townsfolk loved the renovation so much they had me repair the rest of the city, because apparently that's what I do now. Unfortunately, the latest episode of Extreme Makeover Trash Shanty Edition was crashed by a group of vampires led by one named Gataranx, which in my opinion is still a more believable name than Rover. I battled Gooberflanks and won, and right before he died, he revealed the vampire's weakness. So, you know, win-win. After that, I went hiking with a man named Ivan through the backwoods of Morytania, got back to the temple, made a fancy stick, dipped it in some river water to give it a little bit of extra magical flair, and gave it back to the head honcho of the Marik. He was so thrilled with my actions, he volunteered me to go into the vampire-controlled city of Meyerditch? Murdick? Murdereek? Whatever. He volunteered me to go find other members of the Marik and hopefully devise a plan to stop the evil Draken family and end the blood teething once and for all. But why would it be easy, right? In order to get to the other hideout, I had to take a ridiculous path through the city. I'm running across rooftops like Ezio Auditore, falling off buildings, and being stopped by Firewatch to bite my neck every 8 seconds. But I mean, hey, it's not even the worst path in Old School. I eventually meet up with the Marik, I get word to Berg de Rot and my boy Dretzel, but on my way into Varrock, I get knocked unconscious by some werewolves. Probably from my crimes against their kin, but honestly, who remembers? I then politely asked King Rold for help, and he assumed I was with the vampires, because, you know, that makes sense. I eventually made it back to Meyerditch, and this time up Lord Draken's castle to map it out for the Marik. I was just minding my own business, making the map, when suddenly, boom, my old friend Vanstrom Claus came out of nowhere, and once again I was knocked unconscious. I woke up, made my way back to the base, got lost, and found a book about blood magic, which, when I finally got back to the hideout, the Marik were thrilled about. I went back to Berg de Rot to fill everyone there in on the situation, and then I decided to take a short and much needed break from the whole vampire storyline for just a little bit. Did some ghost did some pirate did some mining did some more pirate burned some bodies, ran around with some dogs, opened a couple Barrows chests, and briefly acted as a trail guide out of Berg de Rot to get this kick-ass flannel shirt. Eventually, though, I knew it was time to get back to business. I made my way to the Theater of Blood for a brief history lesson, then back through the city, then back to the theater for some espionage, where I learned of and then proceeded to ignore a plot the vampires were hatching against the Marik. I did, however, learn of the vampire's potential weakness and began to work with the Marik to try to unlock it. It went poorly. An abomination broke into the hideout, most of the Marik were wiped out, and we were forced to relocate to a different part of the city. At the new hideout, they taught me how to make this weapon that could, in theory, seriously clap some vampire cheeks. We didn't know if it would work, but it was a risk we had to take, and I found myself in the theater of blood, ready to challenge the brother of the vampire lord, Ranish Draken. Sure enough, the weapon worked, and after a tough fight I managed to defeat Ranish and tell the citizens of Meyerditch the truth about the vampire's weakness. I guess you could say I gave them a taste of hope. Ha! As a reward for helping the Marik deal such a heavy blow to the vampires, they let me keep the weapon and gave me a sick piece of fashionscape to match. Now you're all caught up. Tune in next week to watch the story unfold in old school RuneScape's newest quest, Sins of the Father.